all right, sometimes I use this show to just be as honest as I can, not only with you, but with myself. Like I try not to make things up on the show. I try not to, if I'm fine, I try not to tell you that I'm bad. Or if I'm bad, I try not to tell you that I'm fine. Last week on the show, I made mention of the fact that I have several chins right now. And it wasn't in an effort to bring any sort of sympathy or to body shame those that struggle with weight or anything else. It's just I literally looked in the camera and saw several chins, like an entire family of chins. There's like a mother, a father, or whatever in today's day and age. And there's children as well in my chins. And so late in the week or earlier this week, I don't know how this all went down. I'll bring Damon and Kristen in. I got a text from a good friend, longtime friend, been friends since 2008, 2009. Said, hey, I was listening to the show when I was on the treadmill, which at first I was like, okay, you don't have chins. I thought that was the thing, you know? And he said, I heard you mention your chins. He said, turns out I got the guy for you. And I'm like, oh, well, what direction is this going? He's like, I got a guy who started a personal training business in your area, basically saying this feels like a cry for help. I'm going to connect you to. I was like, okay, maybe this was a cry for help. I've been interested in getting back at something. I just need a little push. I needed like some divine intervention, you know? So connects us. He's my guy now. I got a guy. I got a man that's going to help me pump in a sweat 3 days a week. I'm going 3 days a week.
Wow.
And of course, our coworker Molly's like, geez, you go all in on stuff. It's not like not 1 day a week. I'm like, no. We're doing it.
Yeah, what could 1 day a week gonna give you?
I mean, half of a less chin, and I've got 7 to go. So this is Operation One Chin, I think is what we're going to call this.
I like it.
And again, I know people get sensitive in this day and age about body shaming and bad self-talk. Great. And I'm glad you do. Here's where I'm at. I'm just being honest. I look in the camera, I look in the TV here. I'm like, I can see a lot of necks. So the gentleman that's coming to the office this afternoon, we're putting together a plan on Monday morning at 6 a.m. He's going to get me sweaty.
6 a.m.
Well, I don't have. I mean, that's part of the thing. I got to make time, and the time I have is my sleep. So 6 to 7 a.m. getting sweaty.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes, of course.
No.
We are the same age.
Yeah, indeed. You're a few months older, but yeah.
At what point?
Yeah.
I mean, do you? What's your ultimate goal for this? I mean, like, are abs on the menu for you at this or of this?
No, that's a great question. I mean, and here's who ruined that for everyone: RFK Jr.
Oh yeah.
I mean, he's ruined a lot of body image things for people who are older because he's like, I would, he wants to take his seat at whatever position he's going to have shirtless, literally.
Wouldn't you?
He wants the world. Yeah, no, I would go nipple forward if I were built like him.
Yeah,
but I'm not. So, Dane, that's a good question. Okay, and in the spirit of honesty, here's what I want. I have a lot of clothes, as most people do.
Mm-hmm.
I've got an entire genre of clothing that doesn't really drape well over my carcass. And so I'm hoping to shrink the carcass, and so that fits again. Is that fair?
That's reasonable. I think that's very reasonable.
I also kind of don't want to die too soon. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm almost 50. So I'm like,
Okay.
So anyway, Operation One Chin begins. I think he's coming by at 1 p.m. today.
Sweating with the oldie.
That's good. Here's the thing. This guy used to be in strength and conditioning for the New York Giants. Like, so I when I was texting with him, I was like, hey man, like, don't kill me. Like, you can't kill me because then I can't continue to pay you. Like, if I'm dead, that's bad for your business.
I mean, if you set it up on auto pay, I mean, who knows how long it'll go.
That is actually a really good point. Good morning, everyone. In the spirit of me telling a really long story about my chin, actually per chin per minute, it wasn't that long of a story.
True.
we got to go quick today. We're going to be out at 50. It'll be a 50-minute show if we can make it. Dame, I have a webinar I got to do at the top of the hour live.
You spent 5 minutes talking about your chins and
3, 2, 1. This week on the Pete the Planner Show, we answer your money questions. Here's how the show works. You email us, askpete@petetheplanner.com. That's askpete@petetheplanner.com. And the entire show may be about your question. In fact, I'm going to tease this for next week. Next week's the tax show. We're going to get you all set up for tax season, ready to go next week. So if you have tax questions, whether they be complicated or basic or something you've always wanted to know, but you didn't know who to ask us. That's askpete@petetheplanner.com. Next week's show is on taxes. This week's show features my two co-hosts, Kristen Elanius. Hello.
Hello.
Damian Dunn, no relation. Hello.
Good day.
Hi, Kristen and co. Here's an email from the email bag. Is that what it's called? It's been, I've been hearing a lot about target date funds as an easy way to invest for retirement, but I'm not sure if they're the best option for me. I like the idea of a set it and forget it approach, but I also wonder if I might be sacrificing flexibility or better returns by not managing my investments more actively. Could you break down the pros and cons of target date funds? What would someone consider before deciding if they're the right fit for their retirement strategy? Thanks for your insight, Brian. All right. So, target date funds is the topic of the day. Target date funds. Dame, you've been in the biz for a while.
Minute.
Do you remember when a wholesaler came around and first told you about target date funds? Do you remember this? Like probably early 2000s, mid 2000s?
Yeah. I mean, and they were actually paired beside, like, I think they called them lifestyle funds, but what that really meant was like overall risk tolerance, whether it was aggressive, conservative, balanced, blah, 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 blah. But it's a very similar approach. Target date funds are a one-stop shop investing approach for a lot of people, where if you're not comfortable building your own portfolio, evaluating investments, deciding what needs to be in there and what is actually appropriate for your risk tolerance, this is a very, is generic a fair word? Generic way to get a portfolio created based off of what your time horizon likely is, which is when you think you're going to need those funds in the future, by putting money into one thing. And inside of that one thing, there's going to be somewhere between like 4 and 6 different other things, other mutual funds that will comprise of this one investment you're making. And then it gets adjusted automatically for you as you get closer and closer to that target date. They'll take risk off the table, which means becoming less exposed to stocks and equities and having a bigger position in bonds and cash. So does a really quick walk through what a target date fund is, but I think we'll probably dig a little bit more into some of the specifics here in a little bit.
And this has been the Pete the Planner Show. That's this week's episode. Jeez, Dame. It reminds me of when I wrote a book about everything I knew about finances in 2005, and it was 99 pages long. And I was like, well, I'm done. I've got nothing else to offer this world. Kristen, on the surface, a target date fund is genius. It is perfect on the surface for people who have no idea what they're doing.
Yeah. The key, I mean, as you've said it 2-3 times, is on the surface, right? That's a very loaded statement because, yeah, it's this great idea of, I think I'll retire approximately 20, 50, 60, whatever the year is. And I just set up my X% contribution, and I know the money is going to take less risk as I get closer to retirement. And hey, that's one less thing taking up bandwidth in my overall decision making.
I would say, Dame, even the idea of, do you have a novice or a sophisticated investor? There's a lot of bandwidth to even consider here. Number one, the novice investor doesn't understand that your investments should be diversified. Okay. So that is a good thing for them to know. And a fund of funds, as these are sometimes called, accomplishes that. But for the sophisticated investor, knowing what that mix is and when to make changes in relation to your time horizon, it's still a genius idea, Dame.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you free up a lot of bandwidth, as you said, by not having to worry about some of the rather important details for a lot of folks as you are approaching a specific goal. In most cases, these funds are used for retirement. Just the typical typical use case that you see these deployed in. Could you use them for something else? Yeah, I absolutely suppose you could. There are maybe some other options that function similarly, like I mentioned earlier, that might be a better opportunity. However, if you just want something to, all you have to worry about is putting money into it, whether that's through payroll deduction or an automated transfer. That's the only thing you want to be concerned about. This isn't a horrible way to go about doing it.
Yeah, we're trying to not brush in too broad of strokes here today, but Dame said the R word there, retirement. Kristen, this has to be accomplished in most cases via a qualified account, and that matters a lot. In fact, Vanguard just this week settled a $106 million lawsuit or situation in which they were having people make changes to target date funds in non-qualified, non-tax sensitive portfolios, which triggered tax bills. And so the glory of a retirement account is you can make all these changes. In fact, I told Dame earlier this week, for some dumb reason, I just made a ton of portfolio changes this week in one of my IRAs, and there will be no tax implications for doing that. And so, Kristen, as we talk about target date funds here on the show today, at least my intention is to limit the conversation to what is either in an IRA, a Roth IRA, a 401k, a 403b, something, or 457 for that matter, something that has tax sensitivity to it.
Okay, I think that that's totally fair. We'll keep the conversation retirement focused.
Kristen, when you think about target date funds, and this is going to be our first big detour within this conversation,
okay,
do you think about actively managed target date funds, or do you think about passive target date funds, or do you not differentiate between the two? Because that is the first decision one must make, or one of the first couple of decisions a person must make when participating in target date funds.
You know, that's a really good question. And I think that my brain just immediately, when I hear target date funds, thinks passive.
Interesting. Okay, well, let's go to an older person. Dame, what's your brain think? Do you think active or passive?
Passive.
The young and the olds, we agree.
We've joined.
The weird thing is, there's a ton of active target date funds, a ton. And that's where expenses can get pretty, out of hand. I'll give you some examples here before we go to our first break. American Funds, one of the largest wealth management companies in the world, their target date funds are actively managed. Dame, real quick, just a difference between active and passive.
Passive is going to be somewhere where you have these components inside of that. There's not a lot of turnover. It's going to be steady as she goes, whereas an active is going to be way more hands-on. They're going to be buying and selling, making changes, hopefully with some tax loss harvesting ideas in mind, but otherwise it may generate some big bills.
And so an actively managed fund is more expensive to run.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you got to pay people and for the research. So at the target American Funds target date series costs between 60 and 80 basis points, which, in the realm of funds isn't that bad. Mm-hmm. In the realm of target date funds is really expensive because a passive target date fund like the Vanguard series is between 8 to 12 basis points. So you're talking 6 to 7 times more expensive to have your funds actively managed. We're going to touch on this more. Our goal in today's show is when you look at your retirement account and you see all of these target date funds, we want you to make the decision. Is it for you? And if you're going to do it, how do you do it right and not have some unintended consequences? All of that is next. This entire show this week on the Pete the Planner Show, I'm Pete the Planner. What was a note we were going to tell people here today? What was it, Dame? Oh, special time and date next week. Is that right?
Oh, yeah.
What is it? What are we doing?
Thursday, 10 a.m. Eastern.
Sure.
I think that's what you said.
Yeah. No, I'm thinking about other things, but that sounds great. And it's because Kristen is high maintenance, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I am high maintenance. I will not deny that.
Dame, we all understand that my Operation One Chin is really about my food intake. I mean, we all pumping and sweating is not a bad idea.
Yeah.
But like, what are we sweating off? Are we sweating off mayonnaise? Are we sweating off kale? Like it's whatever.
Nashville hot chicken.
So really and here's what I'm doing. I'm going 3 months at 3 times a week.
Okay.
As a massive jump start.
Yeah.
Some call it hard 75. What's it called?
75 hard.
Whatever. I'm calling it super hard 90.
Oh, that's so much more beneficial.
Firm 90.
Yeah, they'll go too far.
and so we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
How much weight? Okay, let's do this. Do you have to know how much I weigh to know how much I'll lose? But Dame, you've seen me.
Just do percentage.
Yeah. Okay. What percentage? No, that's hard. You can go pounds. How much weight do you think I'm going to lose in 90 days?
90 days?
The key is how much is your diet going to change during this?
If I'm paying this guy to pump and sweat, I'm gonna. That's the thing with me.
Yeah.
Like it's the accountability, right?
Yeah, because remember when you got a Peloton and you like only drink protein shakes and you lost, I don't know how much weight, but you were like, it just like falls off of me. And
yeah.
all the women that know you hate you. Like,
well, no, that has nothing to do with my weight. Okay. All right. Back to, we'll think about this. We're going to have a little pool, a fat pool. Again, I'm not body shaming. This is what gets awkward. I've got a whole comedy bit about like, I don't even know. Are we supposed to not want to? I don't know. It's complicated. It's day and age. In 3, 2, 1. Back on the Pete the Planner show. This week talking about target date funds. Target date funds are those things that when you open your retirement account at work and there's a bunch of options and you're like, I don't know. And some of those options have a year, like a calendar year or a date. Those are target date funds. And quite simply, it is what year do you think you're going to transition into the distribution phase of your financial life? Right? There's the accumulation phase, and then there's the distribution phase. So if you see a 2030 fund, a 2040 fund, a 2045 fund, a 2050 fund, what you're supposed to do is to say, okay, I'm targeting 2045 for retirement. I'm going to put all my money there, and it will either be actively or passively managed on a glide path that makes me appropriately invested by the time I reach that year. Whew, damn, that's a pretty decent explanation.
Yeah, that was not bad. I mean, you are just crushing it between beta and target date funds. Well done.
Yeah. So, Kristen, here's the challenge. When people go to choose their investments at work, they've heard a ton about diversification. So one of the things they do is then they diversify even with target date funds. They'll get a target date fund and then a bunch of other investments or a bunch of target date funds, and then it all falls apart very quickly.
Yeah, I can't tell you how many times I would see that. So in a previous job role, I worked, all of the employees had TSP, which is the thrift savings plan. It's the government 401k, and it's very limited investment options. It's like 5 mutual funds and then your target date funds. And then I would see that all the time because they would hear this presentation about diversity. And then it's like, well, I picked a year and then I put a little in each of these. And I'm like, for why? Like, let's back up and talk about what diversification actually means.
Yeah, that's super important because the whole point of a target date fund is to say, I don't know, just do it for me. Mm-hmm. And so if you say, I don't know, but do this for me as though I'm going to retire in 2030, 2035, 2040, and 2045, all of a sudden it's wildly broken. And Dame, the craziest part about this is it's not more conservative. It's actually riskier. Mm-hmm. And that is like a number one mistake people make with target date funds is they put something else in their portfolio with their target date fund.
Yeah, it's a fundamental misunderstanding on how target date funds work and how they're intended to function as your portfolio. I mean, people may occasionally say, you know what, I'm going to pick my target date fund. I've got that. I know I'm only going to pick one, but I'm going to put 20% of my money in the S&P 500 too. I mean, I suppose you could do that. You could overweight a specific thing if you wanted to, but maybe the other answer is just to pick a target date that doesn't correspond with the year that you're going to retire, which is another way that you can more closely align your target date with your risk tolerance if that's something you're more comfortable with. You start playing around the edges of different strategies on what you can actually use target date funds for, and it gets away from the original intended purpose for them a little bit. So if you're trying to do that, maybe a target date fund's not exactly for you anyway, and you should start talking to someone else who can guide you into what it looks like to construct your own portfolio.
I believe they're really good investments. I mean, and I'm not. I know I'm making a pretty broad stroke. Oh, Kristen's face went wonky. There wasn't last night's chili. You disagree with me?
Okay, because can we look at an example that would be applicable to the two of you and why they slightly concern me?
This feels ageist, by the way. Are you just going to bring up like Bob Evans, dinner at 4 p.m.? Like, where's this going?
No, I mean, we're just using target date funds, and you two happen to be older than me. So we would have different funds that we would invest in. So the TSP, we talked about it. They list their funds. Mm-hmm. So for the two of you, for your target date fund, do you know how much would be in cash equivalents right now? You want to guess?
Well, yes, I will. But are you saying based on us retiring at 60 or something?
65.
All right. Wait, how long? How far is that, Dave?
18
years?
25? I had no.
18 years. Oh my God.
I know. I'm sorry, but
thanks, Kristen.
But that's why I think that this conversation is important.
Okay. How much cash would be in a target date fund
for the two of you?
For us right now at age 47, hopefully no more than like 2 to 3%, but I don't know.
You're going to tell me it's 10.
22% is in cash equivalents.
That's about those target date funds, not all target date funds.
Right. But that's the point I'm trying to make is I believe that as a rule, they're over conservative. Dame's Googling like he doesn't believe me. I just looked this morning.
I'm looking at a different target date fund.
You guys don't get in a tickle fight here because I can't afford the lawsuits.
But that's my point is if that's a target date fund, even as a passive strategy might not be, because you might think you're doing the right thing, but it's not in line with your risk tolerance or your risk capacity. You guys, someone your age should not be 20 to 25% invested in cash who has a moderate to aggressive risk tolerance. That's crazy.
It's actually a really interesting point because I'm not sure who runs the funds inside of the TSP for the target date options. If I go out and look at Vanguard's option for our retirement year, Pete, short-term reserves 0.59%, bonds 16.5, stock 82.86. That's much more in line with what I think is reasonable for that time horizon.
Kristen, isn't this just about the government chosen funds? The people who go out and defend our freedom are getting the worst investments. Isn't that what this is actually about?
Maybe that was my ruse all along.
Well, I mean, honestly, if we want to have really convenient takes, it's that, and I'm sure the fees are wild.
Actually, I think they're very, very low.
Because when you buy bulk in cash, it's cheap.
That's right.
Well, and they're invested. The irony is they're invested mostly in government securities. So,
I don't think that's ironic at all.
No, I don't either. Dame, how about this? Men our age, when Kristen said people your age, did that sting a little bit? Because it stung me right in the chins.
I couldn't hear. I'm losing my hearing.
That's a good point. I use target date funds or what they're called age-based funds for my kids' college funds. I don't know about you.
I do.
And here's the reason I do that. And by the way, they underperform. They just do. You want to talk about going, what? It's because life happens so fast. I'm afraid as I go to manage the allocation appropriately, I'm just gonna miss it and forget, and then all of a sudden my daughter's 17 and she's 90% in stocks. We have a bad year, and then all that hard work has gone to naught. Like, that's my biggest fear. That's why I go age based. I'm curious how you think of it.
100%. I look at when I'm going to start needing to draw on my oldest 529. That window is pretty small between now and the time that I'm going to need it for that account to recover if we have a couple really bad years in the market. So I would much rather take risk off the table so that cash is there and available when she matriculates.
Oh my gosh. Your daughter had a birthday this week. I was getting close.
She did yesterday.
15, Kristen.
Yeah.
Anyway, here's what I want to do when we come back. I want to oversimplify this and ask a very pointed question. And the question will be this, so you guys think about it during the break. If you do not have a financial advisor and you do not fancy yourself qualified to make good investment decisions, is it a no-brainer to get a target date fund? That's the question. If you do not have a financial advisor and you do not feel qualified or interested in throwing darts at an allocation, is it a no-brainer to have a target date fund? All right, so that's what we're going to do next, right here on the Pete the Planner Show. It's a target date extravaganza. All that's next, right after this. Sometimes when I hit him with the right after this, that's a weird one for me.
It rolls right into Mellencamp. I'm sure it's nothing wrong.
Give him more Mellencamp. Some of the changes that we'll be making to the show in the next couple of weeks, as I'm sort of working behind the scenes to do, and we'll all come to public knowledge here very shortly. There's some dynamics of timing within the show that I got to figure out. Of when we can say certain things, we can't say certain things. I've started to jot it out, and I thought it was simple, but it's a little more complicated than I thought.
It's exciting
for you guys because you don't have to deal with it.
Well, even better.
I will say this, and this I can proudly announce: new show logo and cover featuring the faces of you two.
On the cover of the top 1% podcast in the world. Finally, I've achieved. That's going on my resume and my LinkedIn for sure.
Who would have thought?
Do you think that people who've never seen what we look like they're just podcast listeners, do you think that they'll be surprised by what we look like?
Let me just say this, and then we got to get back to the show because I do have a heart out. I can speak for men. Men are creepy, and they've already Googled you, Kristen. Dame?
No, I've not Googled her. I work with
No.
Oh, yeah, they absolutely have. We saw that with previous personalities on the show as well.
Oh, yeah.
I was really more referring to the fact that you guys are like, we're so old. Like, do you think people are going to be surprised that you're not?
I sound what I look like. I am a caricature of myself in 3, 2, 1. Back on the Pete the Planner Show. It's the target date episode of the show. Here's the thing. You look at your retirement account statement at work, your 401k, the annual return sheet. It's like it's a long list of numbers. You see individual ETFs or mutual funds, maybe your company stocks there. They give you the year-to-date returns or the 3-year average, or the 5-year average. And like a lot of people, you just find the best average, which makes no sense. And you're like, I'm going to get that one. So you do that. And within that sheet, there's a bunch of funds that look very similar. So they got the same title, and it just says like 2030, 2035, 2040, 2045. Those are called target date funds. They are meant to be an all-in-one solution, like a Blue Apron. They just send you the food all in one. And that's what they're meant to do. And if you don't know what you're doing and you don't have a financial advisor, my 2 co-hosts right now are going to answer whether or not is a no-brainer for you to simply use a target date fund to manage your money. Here's what it's at risk. Here's what's always at risk. Number 1, you are invested against your risk tolerance. Okay, so here's the problem there. If you ever make an investment choice within your 401k and you look at it and it is down and it freaks you out, that means you've probably invested against your risk tolerance. You should never feel actual dismay when you look at your retirement account, because it should be in accordance with your risk tolerance. The second thing you deal with is it's too expensive. You don't want your investments to be too expensive. Number 3, you want to keep pace with whatever you view to be the market and choosing the right way to do it. And of course, you just have simple lack of knowledge and information and education risks that come with just throwing darts at the best performing funds that you know nothing about. So Dame, if a person has no financial advisor, doesn't know what they're doing, and they have a target date selection within their portfolio, is it exactly what they should do?
The answer to that question is a resounding maybe. But
you can't do it. Can't do it. We're going binary. I knew Kristen would hit me with a maybe. I didn't expect it from you.
No, it is not.
It's not what you should do.
No, the answer to this question depends entirely on your financial behavior. If you can have someone help you set this up, even if you don't know, I mean, just, it literally takes minutes to do this. And then leave it alone. Don't touch it. Just keep throwing money at it. Maybe review it every once in a while. But if your time horizon's long enough, who cares? Just keep contributing money. You can likely do much better than a target date fund if you just have someone set that up for you, whether you call the company, whether you talk to a relative who knows what's going on. If you can get any kind of reasonable guidance outside of a target date fund and leave it alone, you'll probably be in better shape.
Man, I've evolved into a weird spot. I just disagree.
Okay.
Chris?
Absolutely not.
Oh, so now it's you two. You get on the cover of the podcast, and all of a sudden there's a mutiny.
Correct.
All right. What say you, Kristen?
I, in good conscience, cannot allow someone to not learn more about one of the biggest decisions they're making in regards to their future selves. You have to do more work up front when it comes to your retirement security. And I know it's scary. I know there's a lot to learn. You don't know who you can trust, but you just setting and forgetting in a target date fund that you might not fully understand, that might not be a good fit for you. Future you deserves more than that.
But here's the thing. That's true in a vacuum. If a person is like, you're right, I do need to learn about calorie counts and plyometrics and all of the, like, yes, that's true. But human behavior and time management and all these other things put people in a position where they're just gonna forget. And so if they choose an allocation that their dad's advisor gave them, say, let's start with the person who starts a new job in May, first time ever. Okay, sign up for the 401k. And I'm going to make this really binary. My dad's advisor told me to go with this allocation. Does it? Dame, in a limited scope, that's going to be a better allocation in the short term than a target date fund.
I would like to think so.
Yeah, I mean, I will give you that point. And Kristen's nodding, so I'll give Kristen that point too. But here's what happens is that the target date fund's going to automatically rebalance. If it's actively managed, it's going to look and take into account trends in the economy and the markets at large. And I just think it's a more intelligent way. Like, for a person who's not going to look at that stuff, it's just a smarter, less risky way. And I view them to be wildly inexpensive. Dave, do you remember when you used to sell mutual funds back in the day? Mm-hmm. 1% was considered not that expensive. Yeah. I mean, it was expensive, but it was considered not that expensive. Target date funds now are 1/10 of that. Mm-hmm. Wildly inexpensive. Now, I would say, to Kristen's point, if you're interested in learning more, if you want the best for yourself, if you want to over time, by all means, don't do a target date fund. But if you're just like, look, I'm never going to care about this. I don't care. I use TurboTax. Just use a target date fund.
But the problem with that is that it's true until someone opens their statement and they see that they've, air quotes, lost X amount of dollars. They're panicking. They think that a retirement account is not something they should be invested in. How often do we see that panic when there's a significant pullback in the market? That's what we see. And it's because collectively we didn't put in that upfront work. And I'm just suggesting that here on this platform, we advocate for holding ourselves to a higher standard.
Dame.
Education is absolutely important in making good decisions here, because you can take your money out of a target date fund just as easily as you can anything else. I mean, you can panic and make a bad decision at a weak moment that is inopportune for you to try and make yourself feel better about things. Whereas we all know it has to be part of a bigger strategy where you understand what's going on. So you can mess up just as well with a target date fund as you can anything else. And if it's going to be in your best interest, put in a little bit of effort and learn what it looks like to build a constructed portfolio. Can a target date fund be serviceable? Yes. I cannot argue against that. For people who genuinely have no idea, or they just want to get started, knowing that maybe they'll move to a more specific portfolio that's customized for them based on the options they have available. Okay, get started. Get that habit going of where you're contributing. Got no problems with that. But if you're looking for the most optimal result in the end with virtually no extra work, over the long run, virtually no extra work, take the time to figure out exactly what's going on and what's best for you.
I think of it like cruise control.
Okay.
You know, if you got a target date fund, it's just cruise control. At some point in time, you hit coast and you manually make the adjustments you need to make. You slow down, you speed up. I think early in a person's career, if they're not willing to take the time to figure out what to do, and some would say, hey, just put it all in the S&P 500. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying that, but some would say that. And then just be in that target date fund until you choose to care. It can do the job until you choose to care, which I think is a lot better than getting an allocation from your dad's advisor that isn't going to rebalance and isn't going to adjust in the 3 to 4 years that you don't care.
I'm pretty sure there are 401k plans these days that will rebalance out of your portfolio automatically without needing a target date fund. Just you check when you want to do it: quarterly, annual, semi-annual.
But my point is, I know, but my point is you have to know to check that box. And if someone is a novice and has no idea, rebalance, I don't know. And so they just 50-50 check it or don't. Like, anyway, I can't believe this is my take. I'm actually disappointed in myself.
You're so old.
I'm so old. Speaking of old, we're all old, except for Kristen still doing gender reveals. Coming up after the break, biggest waste of money of the week and the news right here on the Pizza Planner Show. Kristen's doing a gender reveal tonight. Not for her.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you.
For a friend. And we know the results. She told me in confidence. And it is a girl.
It's one of the colors on the behind you on the wall.
It is a girl. Congratulations, Kristen's friends. Girl, mom and dad. You didn't tell me the results, did you?
Mm-mm.
Okay. But there's a 50% chance you're right.
I know. All right, Dave, what do we think it's going to be?
She didn't flinch. I'm going to go boy when you said girl.
Girl. All right. Company holiday party this evening.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's going to get risky.
Have you already decided what time you're leaving?
I won't be the first one there because I had to drop my daughter off at cheer practice.
But you will be the first one that leaves.
You bet your butt.
So accurate.
I'm also it's dry January, so I'm going to be a great time. I'm going to show up in my leather pants and leave early. In 3, 2, 1. This week's biggest waste of money of the week right here on the Pizza Planner Show is the pet piano. A smart feeder that teaches your pet to play the piano by dispensing treats. It adapts to your pet's abilities so they can continue to stay enriched and engaged. It weighs about 9 pounds. It's 12 inches by 11 inches by 10 inches. and it features a smart app that you can customize your pet's experience with. Controls feeding, music, and more. Kristen, first off, I made the prediction early in the show and pre-show that I think you would want the pet piano.
I think it's cool, but I would not subject my pets to music for snacks.
Wow. I was wrong. Kristen, what does the pet piano cost? It does not come with that cat, by the way, that is photographed.
The cat is cute, actually, and I'm not much of a cat fan. It's $137.
Wow, that is such a specific guess. Dame?
$79.
Oh, 199 American dollars. Kristen doesn't want the pet piano, but was so close to guessing its expense. Dame, what's in the news this week?
President Trump says he will demand lower interest rates immediately. In a virtual address to the World Economic Forum in Davos this week, the president demanded the U.S. drop interest rates and that the rest of the world get in line and do the same. The U.S. rates, of course, are controlled by the politically independent Federal Reserve, which makes policy decisions based on market forces without the White House's input. Womp womp. But Trump has long sought to test the boundaries of that system, setting up a clash with Fed Chair Jerome Powell. Trump also, by the way, told Saudi Arabia to lower the price of oil for good measure.
I love a good demand for interest rates to go lower. It reminds me of when Michael Scott on The Office declared bankruptcy.
I declare.
Kristen, what happens here? You're an economics expert. I mean, you were never the skeptical economist, but you're an expert. What happens when the president of the United States says, I demand lower interest rates?
Absolutely nothing.
Dame, you have teenagers. Have you ever found yourself dancing around at the dinner table when no one's listening to you? I demand respect. and like nothing happened. No one changes their behavior. It feels like that could be what's happening here.
I'm smart enough not to say that out loud because I'd just feel worse when nobody gave me respect.
I thought it. I don't know if I've verbalized it. Yeah, I just don't see that happening. I just see the Fed digging in their heels, and to some degree, whether this is petty or whatever, I think they're more apt to raise interest rates quickly than to lower them at this point.
I think I read an article on this. I think coincidentally, rates and oil prices actually went down after he made this demand, but I'm sure they went right back up the next day or whatever it was.
What else is in the news, Dame?
If you didn't negotiate for more money getting a job, don't feel bad because you're just like the president of the United States. Are we sensing a theme here?
Why are we doing this?
When Donald Trump, this is interesting. I think you'll like this one. When Donald Trump officially accepted the position this week, he signed up to receive how much? An annual salary, Peter?
$1.
No. What does the position actually pay?
Oh, I think it was like $415.
$400,000.
400.
The same figure every Oval Office occupant has earned since 2001. But there are perks. President also receives $100,000 travel account, $50,000 of expense allowance, and $19,000 for entertainment. Look out, Dave and Buster's. Since George Washington took office in 1789, receiving a $25,000 salary, there have been 5 pay raises for presidents.
I like this.
But with inflation, today's free world leaders are making less than all of their predecessors. Washington's salary is worth $896,000 today, while every president from 1873 to 2000 was making between 1.3 and 2.6 million in adjusted dollars.
In modern times, hot take alert, the president should make nothing. Nothing.
Correct.
It is a platform to eventually become a multi-millionaire with several commas. They should make nothing.
I agree with that, actually.
I mean, even Barack Obama, who went in broke, in debt, came out, and now it got to be at least 100 millionaire, right? At least.
Write a book, partner with a clothing line.
Get a Netflix deal.
Done.
Right? I don't know. I think more. I think about local politicians and what they make, what local mayors make.
Mm-hmm.
The mayor of Indianapolis, like that pay for what that job is brutal. Not enough.
But don't they get to live somewhere?
Yeah, and a house. I mean, yeah, like, ooh, no, but it's like I'm telling you, big city mayors are the most underpaid people ever. Well, that's a little aggressive. Jeez.
Yeah.
Oh, what am I doing?
Jeez.
Oh boy, what a day.
What a next step.
Big city mayors are underpaid. I'll just calm down and say that. Dame, do you think that?
I don't know enough about what big city mayors make. I would hazard to guess that overall they are likely underpaid for the amount of stress that they are under and the amount of flack that they catch on a daily basis.
All right, I'm looking up the city of Indianapolis mayor's salary.
Guess. Kristen?
Oh, I would have no basis of knowledge for this.
I will say this. They just got a massive pay increase.
I'm going to guess 175.
They're not even close. Going into this year, it was $95,000. So that at 2 a.m., you can get a phone call that says something terrible happened. Come here, talk in front of cameras, and take the blame for potholes. That's $95,000. $95,000.
I feel like Fort Wayne's mayor makes more than that.
Well, that's every city. Now, I will say the city council just approved a massive pay bump that by the beginning of 2028, it will have ratcheted up from 95,000 to 150. And to be honest with you, that's still underpaid for getting blamed for literally everything that goes wrong.
Yeah.
Agreed.
I mean, honestly, like that. I don't know. I don't know how to say it. I think the worst job on the planet is the mayor of a large city. It's a terrible job. Now, the mayor of a small city, like a suburb city, great job. You know? Anyway, Dame, what else is in the news?
The greatest investor of our generation.
Kristen?
Guesses?
Kristen Elenius.
Not Kristen. It's not Warren Buffett. It's Paul Pelosi. Just made $38 million worth of trades in January like a true Wall Street bets degenerate. That's a forum on Reddit, by the way. Paul bought $100,000 worth of call options on Tempest AI last week. The stock shot up 60% because, of course, it did following the required legal disclosure of Mr. Pelosi's long call. Just one of many W's for the trading year for this legend. This former Speaker of the House and the great powerful Paul grew their portfolio by 70.9% in the year of our Lord 2024. The Pelosi's weren't the only big winners in the annual congressional race to see who can inside trade the best. Republican David Rouser led the way with a tidy 149% gain, while Democrat Debbie Wasserman Schultz was close behind with a 142.3% increase. Good luck next year to all of those contestants.
Kristen, no one disagrees with banning this thing other than the people who are benefiting from it. Correct. So why don't we all get like Republicans and Democrats or independents like me? We don't agree on anything ever, but we agree on this.
I know.
I feel like the states could vote on a congressional amendment without the power of Congress and get it ratified. And I feel like there's a
start the movement, Damien.
All right. Well, that's all we have time for this week. Next week's our tax episode. If you have questions, ask Pete at PeteThePlanner.com. Ask Pete at PeteThePlanner.com. Give us your tax questions. All taxes next week. In the meantime, I'm sending you good vibes because good vibes are all that's in the budget. I'm Pete the Planner. This is the Pete the Planner Show. All right. We have 30 seconds of goodbyes here. Kristen, Texas is the gender reveal tonight.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Can you text us who's right?
Just slack us after this.
We're not slack us after this. I won't say it publicly.
Okay, that's fine.
But I will call your friend.
Yeah, please do that. That would
company party tonight. Dame, does everyone employed on Monday? Don't answer that. Okay. That's it, everybody. We'll see you next Thursday, 10 a.m. special bat channel. I think we'll have an announcement by then. Maybe. I don't know. Stay getting money.